Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Stranger Things will go down as such a fun crossover that was short-lived. What's up everyone, James here. I covered the first issue of this series a while back, and I thought I should finally finish it, especially with the final Stranger Things season on the way. So instead of making a part 2 and having you all go back and watch that first video, right after this intro, it's going to transition to that first video and then go into the remaining story. Make sure to hit that like button. I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get into it. What is up everyone? This is James. Okay, if you told me, James, a crossover between Stranger Things and TMNT would be so cool and would work, I would have said, you're crazy, no way would it work. However, after reading this issue, I would have been so wrong. This crossover is amazing. So if you're a fan of Stranger Things like me, bear with me while I explain it for people that aren't familiar with the show. I will be spoiling the show a bit, really just the first season, so if you haven't seen the show, you have been warned. So Stranger Things is a show that revolves around a town called Hawkins in the 1980s. Initially, it's about 4 young friends, Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will. Their lives take a turn when Will mysteriously disappears one night. In their quest for answers, they encounter a mysterious girl named 11, who is a badass with telekinetic and psychokinetic powers. They eventually find out 11, who they end up calling L for short, is a product of a secret government program at the Hawkins National Laboratory, where they're committing unethical experiments on children with psychic abilities, aiming to enhance them further. The program was headed by research scientist Dr. Martin Brenner, who Elle calls Papa. He's not really her father, but she views him as a father figure. The experiments involve sensory deprivation, psychological manipulation, and exposure to the Upside Down and its dangerous creatures. Now, the Upside Down is an alternate dimension. It is a dark, decayed, and hazardous version of the real world. It's where Will was taken to the night he disappeared. By the end of the first season, Will's eventually saved, and 11 becomes a permanent member of what Mike calls their party. It refers to their D&D group. Fast forward to 1985, where the story opens to today. The Hawkins crew, which is what I'll refer to them as going forward, is on a field trip to New York City. A new addition to the party who is here is Max. She joins them in season 2. So this story takes place between season 2 and 3 of the show. But trust me, if you've never watched the show, you can still enjoy this story. The writer behind this series, Chittock, seems to take that into consideration. 11 eventually meets up with the group. They all end up missing the subway train their classmates were on. But after the train leaves, the group hears something familiar coming from the tunnels. 11 causes a distraction so they could sneak onto the train tracks and investigate. As they walk through the tunnel, they encounter something very familiar. The Demi-Dogs from the Upside Down. All you need to know about the Demi-Dogs is that they are vicious, fast creatures that like human flesh. But these aren't the usual Demi-Dogs that the Hawkins crew faces. These Demi-Dogs have mechanical parts, and we'll find out more about that later. As 11 is about to tear these creatures apart, suddenly who comes out of the shadows, taking the Demi-Dogs down, are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now what makes this even cooler is this is the original Turtles. I recently covered their debut issue. The link to it will be in a pinned comment below, so check it out after this video. The Turtles use their ninja skills to decimate these mechanical Demi-Dogs. The Turtles initially mistake them for the Mousers. Now the Mousers are a creation of the notorious Baxter Stockman, an old TMNT villain. He's the quintessential mad scientist. That's all I will say for now, because in the next story I'll be covering on the original Turtles, we'll witness their very first encounter with the Mousers and Baxter Stockman. It's going to be mind-blowing, so be on the lookout for that. When Donatello realizes that they're not the Mousers, at that moment, a group of Demi-Dogs come charging toward them out of the shadows. But 11, using her telekinetic powers, absolutely wrecks them. Later, in the Turtles' lair, the Turtles receive an info dump from the Hawkins group on psychic powers, the Upside Down, and everything that's happened to them in their lives. The Hawkins crew, shocked at the sight of him, ends up meeting Master Splinter. He tells both groups in order to find out what this new threat is, they have to work together and share information. I really like the back and forth between characters of both groups that happens here. Cameron Chittock really displays he is familiar with all these characters, their dynamics, and how they would interact with each other. Mike explains to the turtles that the demi-dogs are predators, who once they are fully grown become demi-gorgons. Now the demi-gorgons are a lot more terrifying. If you've seen the show, you already know. These things have superhuman strength, durability, and have a healing factor. I really hope we get to see the turtles battle against one of those things in this series, because that fight is going to be crazy. Now the Hawkins group wonders why the Demigorgons are here and why they followed them so far from Hawkins. Will reminds them that the Demigorgons didn't follow them. The Upside Down is the other side of the real world. No matter where they go, it's always going to be there. Donatello, reflecting on the bodies of the mechanical demidogs, surmises that the mechanical components and programming has Stockman written all over it. But the turtles assume it can't be him since he's in prison. In order to confirm that he's still in prison, 11 volunteers to check and see if he is. Now how 11 is going to do this is by using her mental void ability, where she blindfolds herself and uses the white noise from a television or a radio receiver to enter a void where she can track where anyone is. It's basically her version of Professor X's Cerebro. Leo offers 11 one of their headbands to be used as a blindfold, but he takes it as a serious gesture because the headbands mean a lot to him and his brothers. And I love what he says here. He says, "You can borrow this, but you haven't earned it. We worked hard to hone our bodies and minds into our best weapons. Nothing was handed to us like your powers." 11 enters the void and ends up finding Stockman with one of the mechanical demidogs at his desk, writing the number 11 on multiple sheets of paper. She informs everyone she found Stockman and confirms he isn't in prison. She also reveals that Stockman is aware of her and knows she's coming, because on all these sheets of paper, he not only put the number 11 on them, but also an address. Both teams decide they need to split into two groups. One group consisting of Raphael, Donatello, Dustin, Max, and 11, a perfect group of brains and brawn by the way. They will find Baxter and stop him, and the other group consisting of Leo, Michelangelo, Mike, Will, and Lucas will hold off any more Demi-Mosers in the subway as long as they can. Splinter sends them on their way with an awesome speech. He says, though both groups are heading into different directions, remember, you share the same burden. You will not have the comfort of your friends beside you, and brief though our alliance has been, trust is the only path to take now. If not yet in each other, then in your mission. Evil like this, whether of another dimension or man's, cannot spread. If it does, there is no corner it will not reach, and no door it will not darken. 11's group tracks down Stockman, but it ends up being an ambush. Stockman reveals that he has worked with Dr. Brenner and knows everything about 11. The issue ends with the group in an all-out brawl with Stockman's forces. Now, sometime later, after being ambushed by Stockman and his forces, we pick up with what I like to call the Brains and Brawn team, because it consists of Raphael and 11, the muscle and power, and Donatello, Dustin, and Max, the brains of the team. Stockman has all of them in prison except 11. Where she is, we'll find out in a bit. While Donatello tries to figure out how to break through the complicated locks each of them has in their cell, Raph simply breaks down the door because, as he points out, the locks may be special, but the doors aren't. He knocks out some guards and the team explores Stockman's facility. They see he has a full operation going on here. It's a lab filled with armed guards and lab technicians all over the place. What they end up discovering is Stockman and 11 unconscious and strapped to these huge machines. What's happening here is Stockman is using this machine to manipulate 11 into using her powers in order to open a door to the Upside Down. He's created this psychic projection within her mind in a controlled environment while pretending to be Hopper. Now, for those of you who may not know who Hopper is, he's the town sheriff of Hawkins, one of my favorite characters in the show. In the Stranger Things show, he becomes the adopted father of 11. Stockman, as Hopper, has 11 believe she's home and he's giving her the day off to do anything she wants to do. All she has to do is get through their front door. But when she tries to open it, she can't. It's not moving. Stockman as Hopper pushes her to try to open it with all of her might. So 11 begins to use her powers to open it. Meanwhile, back in the real world, what's happening is 11 is opening that dimensional gateway to the Upside Down. The team sees this and knows they have to stop it, but the problem is they can't just pull out 11 from this psychic projection, because as Donatello mentions, the mind is fragile, even with someone of her abilities. The consequences could be dire if they go that route. They first need to find out what's going on. The team gets their weapons and stuff. Raph takes out another pair of guards here with his size, which is pretty cool. They interrogate one of the lab techs handling the experiment. He reveals to the team what we pretty much already know, that Stockman put 11 in a controlled environment using her own powers. But the new thing we learn is only those in the illusion can stop it. So Dustin surmises they need to enter this projection somehow and let 11 know that it isn't real. From here, I want to transition to the subways of New York, where the other team, consisting of Leonardo, Michelangelo, Mike, Will, and Lucas, they're currently exploring it to find any more Demi-Mosers, but they discover something much, much worse. They find a subway car that has a gate to the Upside Down within it. They also see that the passengers here are all dead, and the rest are missing. Now, remember what I said in the first video that I would love to see the Turtles come face to face with the Demigorgon? Well, that's going to happen, because when Leo approaches the gate, not one, but 2 Demigorgons come screaming out of it. Mike, and when I say Mike, I mean Mike from Stranger Things, not Michelangelo. Don't want you guys to get confused. Mike tells the Turtles that the Demigorgons are dangerous, and that they can't see, but when they find the Turtles, they'll tear them apart. Mikey and Leo are like, oh yeah, I like to see them try. They both take the fight to the Demigorgons. Though Mikey and Leo are highly skilled ninjas, they're having a hard time against the Demigorgons. Remember, these things are fast, powerful, and durable. Leonardo's katana can't even slice through the Demigorgon's head. It gains the upper hand in their fight and wraps its teeth around Leo's shoulders, losing his katanas in the process. Mike, seeing the Turtles struggle, tells Will and Lucas that they have to enter the battle too. But the problem is, as Lucas points out, his slingshot isn't going to do much to the Demigorgons. Mikey tells Leo he's coming to help him, but at that moment, the Demigorgon he's fighting strikes. It knocks him back and his nunchucks fly out of his hand. Mike, Will, and Lucas grab Leonardo and Michelangelo's weapons and are now armed and ready to join the fight. Leaving that madness for a second here to go back with 11 in the psychic projection, she's breaking down the door, almost opening the gateway to the Upside Down in the real world. Suddenly, Raphael comes crashing in. He tells 11 that none of this is real and informs her that this isn't really Hopper, it's Baxter. Baxter finally reveals his true self. Raph grabs him by the throat and has his side resting right on it, ready to puncture it. Baxter tells him though that he's in control of this world he's created, and that if he or 11 kill him, it would be a big mistake. He then points out the similarities between 11 and the Turtles. He says, "You were both made. Your pathetic existences have always been out of your control." He changes the psychic projection and shows Raph and 11 each other's origins. Baxter says, "The abandoned child molded into a weapon, whether she liked it or not. No choice and no voice. The reptile who prides himself on a myth that he built himself into a warrior, when in reality, he's nothing more than an accident, a freakish mistake." When 11 begins to fall into despair, Raphael gets her out of it with an awesome speech. He says, "That lab, that's where you're from. Maybe your powers weren't a gift. So we didn't have a say in how we were made. Who cares?" Baxter sees it as a weakness. I say, it's a badge of honor that we're still standing. Every choice you make adds up. And after a while, you're not a test subject or a mistake. You're you. Baxter becomes furious and tries to order 11 to open the gate or else he'll kill them. Now, Raphael is usually known as the hot-headed and toughest turtle out of his brothers. But what Raphael says next perfectly displays how intelligent he is. He tells Baxter that he's picked up on his BS, that he's trying to convince them he's in control, when in reality, that's the real illusion. 11 has the real power in this world. Since she's the telepath and this is in her mind, 11 blasts Baxter Stockman and destroys this psychic projection. They all wake up back in the real world. The team interrogates Baxter, wanting to know how he came in contact with the demi-dogs and what his plans are. Baxter explains that his Mousers discovered the demi-dogs scampering around in the sewers of New York. He experimented on them, fusing his Mouser technology into them, creating his demi-Mousers, so he can infiltrate the demi-dogs pack. These abominations can mimic their calls, monitor their movements, and be his eyes. His experiment was almost successful until his demi-Mousers encountered the Hawkins crew and the Turtles. However, once he saw 11 and her powers in action, he knew she was Dr. Brenner's creation. He reveals to 11 that both he and Brenner ran in the same circles, and both shared a mutual connection to push boundaries. He admits one of the reasons why he captured 11 was to see if Dr. Brenner's boasts had merit, and because he wanted to create his own doorway to the Upside Down so that his demi-Mosers could go there. This confirms that Baxter isn't the one responsible for opening the gate to the Upside Down. So the question is, who did? And that's what we're going to find out next. Returning to Mike and Leonardo's team, Mike, Lucas, and Will are waving the Turtles' weapons around like madmen, slicing tendrils from the Upside Down and keeping the Demigorgons back as best they can. It buys enough time for Mikey and Leo to recover. Will takes one of the tendrils and douses the Turtles' weapons with its liquid, because the creatures from the Upside Down hate fire, and it is a major weakness of theirs. I think the vine and tendrils specifically in the Upside Down were flammable in the show. I'm not 100% sure about that. Let me know in the comments below if I'm right. Using a lighter, Will lights the Turtles' weapons on fire, and we get an incredible scene of Mikey and Leo waving their fire nunchucks and katanas and bringing the fight to the Demigorgons, kicking their ass. It's just amazing. After taking the Demigorgons out, Leonardo and Mike have a debate on whether they should enter the gate to the Upside Down and search for the missing passengers, or wait for 11 and the rest of the team to join them. However, Will ends the debate. He argues that they have to go, and that no one should have to try to survive there as he did. I like this a lot because it puts Will in the bravery role, which we don't see him in a lot in the Stranger Things series. Once they enter the Upside Down and search for the missing passengers, they discover it's too late. All of the subway passengers are dead. Their bodies are piled up on the subway steps. When Leo checks the bodies, he finds one of the passengers is an Utrom. Now, Utroms are an advanced alien species that resembles human brains that the famous TMNT villain Krang is a part of. Splinter and the Turtles met the Utroms in the Mirage series. They're the ones who created the mutagen that mutated Splinter and the Ninja Turtles. I covered kind of the first arc in that series. You'll find a playlist to that at the end of this video if you're interested. Leo mentions that he thought all Utroms left Earth. Mikey points out that this Utrom looks sick. Suddenly, Will lights it on fire and it screams in agony. Leonardo gets pissed and asks Will what he's doing. Will answers, "Saving it, Leo." At that moment, black smoke begins to leave the Utrom's body. When Leonardo asks where's the smoke going, Will answers it's rejoining the rest of the Mind Flayer, wherever he's hiding. Unbeknownst to the Hawkins crew and the Turtles, the Mind Flayer is with them all in New York, and he looks scary as hell. Now, 11 and Raph's team try to inform Leo and Mike's team that Baxter isn't the one behind the gate to the Upside Down in New York, and they're most likely walking into a trap. But they're unable to reach them through their walkie-talkies. They tried different channels, but still they aren't able to reach them. They end up on the NYPD's radio frequency, and hear a police officer reporting flickering lights moving toward Times Square. Now, lights flickering is an indication that someone is in the Upside Down, so the team figures out Leo and Mike's team must be there. They come up with a plan to get rid of the demi-dogs by using Stockman's demi-Mosers to lead the demi-dogs in New York to the Upside Down. When Dustin asks how they're going to make it to Times Square, Raphael answers, "Luckily, we have friends for that." The team meets up with Casey Jones and April O'Neil, who finally make an appearance in this series. Back with Mike and Leo's team in the Upside Down, they speak to the Utrom they freed from the Mind Flayer's control. He tells them while he and his kind were on Earth, different teams were working on developing new ways to travel through dimensions. He and his partner created a portal unbeknownst to them that led to the Upside Down. The portal was only open for a moment, but that was enough time for the Mind Flayer to ensnare and take control of them and their machine. After the rest of their kind left, the Mind Flayer had them use their machine to open the gate in the subway. His partner is currently atop one of New York's skyscrapers with their machine, planning to open a massive portal to the Upside Down. As that's going on, 11 and Raph's team reaches Times Square. Raph orders April to get the citizens out of here. Donatello and Max, controlling the Demi-Mosers, take out some demi-dogs that are attacking civilians. We then kind of get a full circle moment here, because remember in the first video, I think it was Leo who gave 11 a headband to use in order for her to use her mental void ability, but he made it clear to 11 she didn't earn it like the Turtles did. Raph says to 11, "I don't know what monstrosities are waiting for us, but after everything we've been through, I know you. I think you earn this." Raphael gives 11 a ninja headband. 11 puts it on and replies, "We will show them who we are." Leo and Mike's team come out of the subway reaching Times Square in the Upside Down. They see the Mind Flayer in all of its glory hugging this skyscraper with the Utram's machine atop it. What I love about the Mind Flayer is that it's a truly menacing looking creature. The Utram informs them that their machine is able to open a portal wide enough to transport a spacecraft. The team deduces that the Mind Flayer released the Demi-Dogs to round up as many humans as possible for him. Will promises the Utram that they will save his friend, and the Utram is genuinely shocked by this because he thought that the Hawkins crew and the Ninja Turtles were blaming them for all this and mad at them. But Will assures him that isn't the case at all. He says, "You were just trying to get home. No matter where we come from, that's something everyone here can understand." Now, this is where we see something amazing. Both teams get armed and prepared to go to war. Both teams traverse the skyscraper, and the image of this is incredible. The artist behind this series, Fero Pe, truly did an outstanding job. It shows us Mike and Leonardo's team traversing it in the Upside Down, while 11 and Raphael's team are traversing it in the real world. Both teams are battling groups of demi-dogs and demigorgons blocking their path. They eventually reach the top of the building. Now, I know I said that last image was incredible, but this one right here is my favorite of the entire series. Like, Fero Pe truly killed it with this one right here. It's just both teams on the rooftop of the skyscraper just battling the Mind Flayer's forces in their respective dimensions. Leo and Mike's team take the fight to the Mind Flayer and his demigorgons. Now, if you've watched the Stranger Things show, you know the combination of the Mind Flayer and demigorgons is more than enough to take out Mike and Leo's team. Like, let's be honest. The Mind Flayer himself is enough to demolish the team. So Cameron Chittock is playing this a little fast and loose here. In the real world, Raphael and 11's team are taking out demi-dogs, and 11 is able to banish the Mind Flayer's control from the Utram. She opens a portion of the portal, and Leo and Mike's team jump right through it. Demi-dogs come through the portal as well, but Max uses Baxter's Demi-Mosers to lead them back into the Upside Down. Raphael and Dustin destroy the Utram's machine, and a big, blinding light covers Times Square, shutting down the portal here and in the subway. The Ninja Turtles and the Hawkins crew successfully defeat the Mind Flayer. The next day, both groups say their goodbyes. The Hawkins crew invites the Turtles to Indiana, and Dustin mentions a new mall opening up, further confirming this takes place between seasons 2 and 3 of the show. The Turtles reply that they'll keep that in mind and leave. Sometime later, the Hawkins crew rejoins their class field trip, and everything returns back to normal for the most part. That is the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets Stranger Things. Could the series have been longer? Yeah, it really could have been longer, but I think Cameron Chittock wrote the best story he could with just 4 issues. Is it the greatest crossover? No, but it didn't need to be. It was a simple, fun story, and I enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment below your thoughts on this series, subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, have an awesome day, and always remember every day to go beyond.